Welcome back, dear students. This is the part 4 of Introduction to Object Oriented Programming Concepts. And today is the most important lecture of this chapter because now we are going to deal with an important paradigm, programming paradigm, which is known as Object Oriented Programming Paradigm, or as in short we call it as OOP. So, before we talk about object oriented programming, let us understand what an object is. Okay, now everything is an object. It can be a chair, a table, or a car. Everything is an object. Okay, now if we talk about the broadest term, everything that we see around us can be termed as an object. Anything that you can see, we can call it as an object in object oriented programming. Now, this object can be a tangible thing. Now, what is the meaning of this word tangible? Tangible means something that you can see. Okay, it can be something that you can see, such as a car. You can see a car, pen, a book, a mobile, a chair, or an ATM. Now, what about the objects that we cannot see or intangible objects? For example, a bank account. You cannot see a bank account, right? You cannot see a fee account. Yes. So even intangible things can also be classified as an object. So a bank account, a fee account, an email, or a MP3 file, these things can also be a object. Okay. Now, an object is an identifiable entity with some attributes and behavior. The two most important things that an object has, it has some attributes and some behavior. For example, we can say that a car is an object, right? A car is a object. Now, this car will have its attributes. What are the attributes of this car? Its color. Can you see this color? The brown or a black color over here. It is an attribute of this car. Okay, the color of this car, the make. See, 2013. It's the make year of this car. The model. What is the model? Skoda Superb, right? So this model of the car is also a attribute of the car, and then the size of the engine. Okay, all these aspects are the are your this attributes of the object car. Okay, now different cars, there are different types of cars, so different types of cars have different attributes. Okay, now let's talk about the behavior aspect. Okay, the behavior includes what? Driving forward, driving backwards, accelerating, halting. All these are the behaviors of the object car. Okay, and there are many other behaviors also. Next, now let's take an example of an intangible object such as a bank account. Okay, what are the attributes of a intangible object such as a bank account? The name of the account holder, okay, is a attribute of the object bank account. The account holder's name, account number, the balance amount. Okay, name of the account holder, the account number, and the balance are all attributes of the object account number. Okay, account, bank account. Then, what are its behaviors? The behavior may include depositing the money, withdrawing the money, showing the balance of the account. These are the behaviors of the intangible object bank account. Okay, so every object has two aspects. Okay, in object oriented programming, its attributes and behavior. Okay, so in object oriented programming, as the name suggests, the problem solving aspect focuses on objects. Okay, now that you have understood what are objects, okay, objects have two, and you have also understood that objects have, every object has two things, attributes and behavior. Okay, now, in order to solve a problem in object oriented programming, we need to start by identifying the objects that are involved in the problem. The first step always to solve a problem in object oriented programming is by identifying all the objects that are involved. Then then, after identifying all the objects, we need to identify the attributes and behavior of all of these objects, because different objects are going to have different attributes and different behavior. Now, object oriented programming. The attributes of an object are represented by the data. The data part, okay, the attributes are represented by the data, and the behavior is represented by functions or operations that object can perform. Okay, in whole object oriented programming, the object oriented programming is divided into objects. Then in this approach, in object oriented programming approach, we always start by identifying the objects and then we work our way up. First step is to identify the object, and then we are going to proceed towards the solution. So because we are starting at the bottom and then moving our way towards the top, that's why this approach is also called as bottom up approach. Okay, this approach is also called as bottom up approach, because we'll start with the objects, then we'll talk about its attributes, then we'll talk about its behavior, and so on. We'll approach towards the problem solving. Mind the spelling mistake over here, sorry about this. Now, so object oriented uh, programming, this style of programming is also termed as the bottom up approach, unlike the procedure oriented programming, which is the top down approach. Okay, object oriented programming is bottom up approach, it follows bottom up approach. Now, the very important definition, please note this down. Object oriented programming is a programming paradigm in which data and functions are wrapped into a single unit. Okay, we had seen in procedure oriented programming that the data and functions both were not wrapped in a single unit, but in object oriented programming, data and functions are wrapped into a single unit. Now, let's talk about one more important aspect of object oriented programming, which is called as a class. What is a class? Now, the term class, oh sorry, the term class is used to describe a group of objects that have some common attributes and behavior. For example, look at this car. If we talk about the class car, then if you look at these three, these are three different cars. But at the end of the day, these three are cars. So we can say that these three objects, the Audi car, the Nissan and Volvo, these belong to the same class, which is car. because they will have some common attributes and some common behavior. That's why these cars belong to the class car. Okay. Similarly, mangoes, apples, oranges all share some common attributes and behavior, and they can belong to the class fruit. Okay. A class can be thought of as a template or a blueprint for multiple objects with similar features. Okay, a class can be thought of as a template or blueprint for multiple objects with similar features. Okay, now an object belonging to a particular class is called as an instance of that class. So if we talk about the class car, these three objects can also be called as the instances of this class car. Okay, therefore we can say that mango is an instance of the class fruit. Okay, now let us quickly compare how the data is shared in procedure oriented programming versus object oriented programming. Now, in procedure oriented programming, you had seen that the global data is declared in a way that makes it available to every other part of the program. See this function. These two functions can access the global data. The main program can obviously access it, and these two functions, they can also access the global data, and they can also change this global data. But as it can be seen in this figure, the data in object oriented programming, the data is accessed only through the properly defined functions only. So this function A can access data A, function B can access data B. Now, if function A wants to access data B, it has to go through this function. It cannot directly access this data B. Okay, data is shared through functions of the classes only. Understood? Now, next, the data in object oriented programming, the data is not freely available due to the fact that only way of due to the fact that the only way of accessing the data is by calling the relevant function. Okay, now let's talk about the characteristics of object oriented programming. Okay, object oriented programming, as you know, follows a bottom up approach. We have already discussed this. Then, next, the program resulting from object oriented programming is called as the is a collection of objects, because we start by defining the objects only. Then each object has its own data and set of operations. Now the sorry data. Okay, what does the data refer over here? The attributes. And the operations, the operations talk about the behavior. Okay, now object oriented programming restricts the free movement of data and the functions that operate on it. It does not allow any free movement of data. Then it uses a technique which is called as data or information hiding that allows us to have a better control over the data. Then a properly defined class can be reused, giving way to code reusability. Okay, then the concept of object oriented programming models the real world entities very well. unlike the procedure oriented programming. Then, due to the object oriented approach, it is extremely useful in solving the complex or large problems. Now, let's quickly talk about the limitations of object oriented programming. Now, the size of the programs that are created using object oriented programming approach may become larger than the programs written using the procedure oriented programming approach. So, the same program written using the procedure oriented programming can be smaller, whereas the program written with object oriented programming approach may be larger. Okay, then software developed using object oriented programming approach requires a large amount of pre-work and planning. Okay, then object oriented programming is difficult to understand if you do not have the corresponding class documentation. Then, in certain scenarios, object oriented programming program can consume a large amount of memory. Okay, now students, in the next lecture will talk about the principles of object oriented programming. Thank you for paying attention, and really sorry for all the disturbance caused. Thank you.